Hi everyone, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my prelude that I'm playing for you today. It is by David McIntyre. He's a Canadian composer, originally from Edmonton. He wrote these preludes. This is the second from a series of 3 in 2006. And it's very beautiful, very lyrical, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello, friends of Riverbend United Church. This is a service of worship for Sunday, June 28th, and you are most welcome. We are an affirming congregation, which means that no matter what, you are welcome here at Riverbend. Today, we bid farewell to our beloved pianist of 10 years, I believe, Andrew Sims. Andrew is moving to BC to begin again, and we want to hold him in our heart and our prayers. Transition is not easy for anyone. Andrew has served us faithfully, and Andrew, we send you with our love, and we are going to hear from Andrew today as he gives a reflection. He was invited to do that by the Affirming Committee 6 months ago, way before COVID was a thought in our minds, and we're grateful that he has agreed to do that on this, his last Sunday with us. In terms of announcements, we want to congratulate Jake and Marilyn Enns on their 62nd, I believe, wedding anniversary last week. And we also want to congratulate Doug and Dorothy McEwen on their marriage on Saturday. I want to invite you to consider being part of a conversation with me, a conversation that's not easy, but probably timely. It's time we have this conversation about racism, our unconscious privilege, our unconscious racism. It's not intentional. It's more like in us. Let's become aware of it. Let's talk about it. I invite you to view the CBC documentary called The Skin We Live In. And then we'll have a conversation both live in person in the church in the narthex, spread out for social distancing, as well as at the same time on Zoom. So view that documentary and watch for details coming up. This will be later in July. It's important that we become aware of what is unconscious in us. This morning, Andrew will lead us through the parable of the mustard seed. Faith the size of a mustard seed. What does that mean? I invite you to open your hearts, take a breath, feel your feet wherever they are, on your deck, on your living room floor, out in the woods, listening on a headset. Wherever you are, feel your feet against the earth. Feel the smile within you of God's presence. Recognize the spirit of connectivity that joins us all. Let's open our hearts and worship the God of life.
Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. I certainly am, and that makes me quite happy. So I'm coming to you from Courtenay, BC on Vancouver Island. We had a bit of rain this morning, which was really lovely, but luckily it's cleared up for now, so I thought I would try this outside. Hopefully it's nice in Edmonton or wherever you may be. So I've been looking forward to today and talking with you, so let's just dive right in. So today's reading is probably a familiar one for most of you. It's the parable of the mustard seed from Matthew 13:31 to 32. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. Valerie had asked what all I'd like to cover today. I knew that I would be doing the reflection, but just last week I agreed also to do the reading. I'm by no means a theologian, but the parable of the mustard seed happened to pop into my head. It's funny starting my reflection with my cats, but Brian and I have two calicos named Pumpkin and Spice. They're the Latte Sisters, as we fondly like to call them. He and I Googled facts about mustard the other day, and it is indeed a spice. So, here is a little story for you. A few weeks ago, my terribly behaved cat, you guessed it, Spice, woke me up at 4 a.m. asking for food. She knows how to push all of my buttons, knocking off every object she can off of our desk. One night, half asleep, I begrudgingly gave her a 4 a.m. snack. I couldn't get back to sleep, so of course, there goes my mind racing. I've always wondered how many notes are in a hymn, a sonata, a song. So instead of counting sheep, I pulled out my hymnal, as you do on nights like these. I wondered how to somehow quantify music over the course of my 10 years here at Riverbend to give some perspective. How can this relate to the parable of the mustard seed? I like to think that each note, though a tiny particle by itself, when put together, these seeds have helped create a song, create an anthem, create a solo. One of my all-time favorites is Love Divine, All Loves Excelling. I counted all 4 voices, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. This particular hymn has 307 notes in each verse. I then began to think, if we were to sing this hymn in its entirety as the introit, opening hymn, hymn after the reflection, and closing hymn, a total of 4 times over the course of 10 years, you would get 1,915,680 notes. I also counted the notes in one of my favorite arrangements of Be Thou My Vision by Fred Bach. This, of course, is different from a hymn, as there is both melody and accompaniment. In total, it has 666 notes. I laughed too, and I didn't recount. A bit more involved than Love Divine, with the added introduction, transitions, chords, more complex harmonies. If I were to play this solo as the Prelude, Offertory, and Postlude, that's an additional 1,038,960 notes. I also added up the notes and Prayer of Dedication, 545. This anthem by Don Bessig and Nancy Price has both piano accompaniment as well as choral parts. I included both of these in my calculations. Putting all 3, Love Divine, Be Thou, and Prayer of Dedication, in one service gives us 3.2 million notes over my tenure at this church. And, just to keep in mind, this does not include our weekly choir anthem, cantatas, hymn sings, rehearsals. Those alone would easily add another decent chunk. That's a lot of notes. I've been thinking a lot about what to say during the past few weeks. I've thought about my life with music. It's been an ever-present force in my life from as early as I can remember. I reflected on how I started with this church. Serendipitously subbing for Mitch Cox one Sunday in August of 2009. I've reflected on my dedication and persistence. I look back and I'm proud of my role at this church. I'm proud of filling this church with millions and millions of notes, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Hours of Thursday choir rehearsals, note after note, week after week, year after year. I'm proud of sharing a very vulnerable part of me last October. I'm proud of being myself. Looking back, I hope that my role at this church as pianist has given you a place to reflect, connect with one another musically and spiritually. I hope that my leadership in music has given you solace, peace, and joy. I hope the millions and millions of notes have allowed you to grow in some way. You certainly have given me so much, so I only hope that I have given you much as well. After reflecting on my position here at Riverbend, I took a step back and asked myself, is it really about the music? Don't get me wrong, singing together, listening to millions and millions of tiny musical seeds together, has been a pillar of this congregation over the course of my 10 years here. But think about it this way. Music has been and will continue to be a common thread for us, both within these digital walls of Riverbend, the physical walls of the building, and of course, beyond. It's something that has kept us connected, note by note, thread by thread, stitch by stitch. No matter how you look at it, these particles build up to something bigger and greater. And that's what our church is. Music is vital to us. There is a very hilarious clip on YouTube that you should totally check out. It's the famous scene from Star Wars: A New Hope. I believe it's the final scene in the throne room. In the clip on YouTube, they've taken out the well-known music of John Williams. How terribly awkward and hilarious it is without the music. I don't even want to begin to imagine Riverbend void of millions and millions of notes throughout the years. Those musical threads have created a joyous, welcoming, thoughtful, engaging, supportive, and compassionate community here at Riverbend. And that's probably what I'll remember the most. I'll remember you as a community, as a whole. Several months ago, our choir started to get together on Zoom for our weekly choir rehearsals. Some of you are probably wondering, and I was too at the time, before we started online rehearsals, how could this possibly work? With internet connections, out of sync singing, the pianist in another province, it's quite astounding how much more connected we've been since we had our last in-person rehearsal. We all have that common thread of music that we share with one another. In the midst of the pandemic, music for us has kept us together while apart. We sing together virtually, check in with one another, chit-chat, laugh, and it's that thread of music that has held us together. And just think, on the flip side of all of this, once the choir is able to sing together in person again, it will be even more meaningful and celebratory. In closing, I want you to remember some very wise words by Brené Brown that I've alluded to many times before. They're worth repeating. She says that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Music has a lot to do with that connectedness. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for trusting me to lead you in music here at Riverbend. This, of course, isn't goodbye, and I look forward to continuing to be a part of this congregation from my new home in Courtenay. After all, I'm only a Zoom meeting away, and perhaps I can join in for church on the beach. Thank you again to each and every one of you. Much love and light to you all. Our closing hymn for today will be Deep in Our Hearts, More Voices 154. The choir and I had a lot of fun putting this together while we were apart. And thank you so much to Paula and Jamie for putting it together.
Hi, Andrew. On behalf of the Riverbend United Church Board of Directors and congregation, I'd like to say thanks to you for your many years of exemplary work as our church pianist. When you first started with us, I remember thinking that you were an excellent accompanist, but what I really enjoyed was your solo work, preludes, offertories, and postludes. You had an amazing collection of interesting arrangements, which you played with such expression and passion. But it was when I joined the choir that I really gained an appreciation of your talents. Your ability to sight read and to follow Paula as she jumped around in rehearsal was amazing. It was like you were inside each other's heads. Paula would be talking with the sopranos and then say, "Okay, everybody at bar 57," and Andrew would always be at the right spot. Usually, the women would be paying attention and would follow along, while the men would look up and say, "What page are we on?" And I would say, "What song are we on?" And Doug would look up from his phone and say, "McDavid scored." But I digress. Another thing that amazed me about Andrew was his ability to play the complex piano accompaniment of an anthem while also helping the vocalist with a tricky part. For example, Paula would ask him to play the alto part starting at bar 101 and then play the tenor part starting at bar 121, and he would do it without blinking. He was up for any challenge. We are sad to see you go, Andrew, but I know the move to BC to be with Brian was what you needed. In the choir Zoom meetings, it is obvious to me that you were very happy with your new situation, and I'm not even very observant. I'm sure that we have not heard or seen the last of you, as you have offered to keep helping with our recorded music until we get a new pianist, and thank you very much for that. And once things get back to normal, please come back and visit us. So from the congregation, we say a heartfelt thanks to you for all you have done, and we wish you all the best in the future. We end the service with the benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. Go in peace. And now our awesome pianist Andrew Sims will grace us with a postlude.